Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's chilly out today, I think in part because of the wind. Thomas Jefferson in his report, our homage to Jefferson's own track of weather experiences a long time ago. So today the temperature is 34 degrees and the humidity is 35%, and the winds, which I felt until a moment ago, 15 miles an hour. There have been pretty serious winds here. A couple of power lines seemed almost to go down because there was a flickering of light, but so far, knock on that icy wood chair over there, it's better. So, a weather-related accident occurred in Vancouver. A Delta plane on landing flipped over, and there were injuries, no deaths. The pictures, I haven't seen a video of it, but I'm sure they exist. The pictures suggest something like a wind shear. We'll hear what it is. So this doesn't feel like pilot error. This could be Mother Nature. So we'll find out. Elsewhere, there's another storm arising, and it involves, of course, felon Trump. He wants to Bigfoot the discussions with Putin, and our allies want to be engaged because, rightly so, where they might have trusted Biden and just disagreed with him, I don't believe they trust Trump at all, and they certainly don't trust Putin. And what's at risk here is not only Ukraine, of course, but the NATO alliance. And it sounds like Putin thinks that to have Ukraine join the NATO alliance is a non-starter. But the flip side is for other European nations, and it should be for us, also a non-starter to bar them from joining. Because if they join, there's that security that if any one of the allies is attacked, the others will come into play. So that's pretty critical. But the feeling I have about how some of these things are finding second lives, that is to say, resistance, I think, is rising. Will it be persistent? Will it be enough? Will it be effective? Those are questions that we have to answer. But I don't know if you're familiar with the notion of neuroplasticity. And it is the notion that the brain can rewire itself. And I don't mean in predictable, certain ways. So as a metaphor, what I'd like to think is that as a civilization with sensitive nerve endings and memories and histories and a collective sense, that when there's an attack on this system and what we expect does not occur, cognitive dissociation, then how do we respond to that? Do we respond to it? Well, within the shadow of this crash in Canada, we have Trump firing several hundred FAA employees. How does that mind work? I don't know if you ever played with SimCity. I'm not much for these games, but my brother really was into it and was quite good at it, and he decided to code for a living, and he got very good at that. And when he passed, I don't know, one of my exercises was to practice SimCity. I don't know, it just felt like it was one of those things. I did it would be might let me know something about my brother that I didn't know. And what I found over time is that if you didn't do certain things, say you moved an airport into the center of a city, what would happen is there would be crashes, there would be fires, if you didn't pay attention to the electrical system that you created in this simulated city, fires would break down, planes crashing into buildings. And as boredom can sit in doing these games, I thought that was pretty interesting. I wonder if Trump thinks in real time, with real situations, that it would be just fine if there were these disasters, one upon the other. A recent one, of course, is the Just Us department taken over by the Trump faithful to get even and have retribution, but also to cut deals. And the deal that Trump wants to cut is, we'll kill this federal prosecution if you do what I want when it comes to immigration reform. And I know among AUSA's former prosecutors that I think it's fair to say that very few, maybe none, think that what happened was as close to a quid pro quo as you can get. I mean, there's the quid pro quo within the prosecution of the mayor in exchange for offshore persons. He did what he did. But then, in the category of what the Justice Department did, their quid pro quo was, we don't question the facts of the law of the case itself, but we are prepared to not prosecute you if you do what we want you to do about immigration. That's terrible. So the reaction of people around the country, AUSAs and others, is, I think, this rewiring, this societal neuroplasticity. As I speak to you, I believe that there are 73 lawsuits pending against Trump. And that's pretty important stuff. 73 cases. Now, the government does get sued, usually by individuals, from individual cases in which something was done as a matter of violating a statute or the equity of the situation or fraud or what have you. But these cases have to do with Trump forging ahead with his idea of, frankly, a dictatorship. And he just keeps at it, and he doesn't let up about it. And he said just the other day, this past weekend, he who serves his country does not violate any law. Now, some ascribe that quote to Napoleon, a dictator. Others have ascribed it, or a variation of it, to Hitler. Now we have Trump taking it upon himself. In this nation, we had a parallel because Nixon once said in an interview after he left, resigned from office and accepted a pardon for himself from his vice president. He said, when the president does it, that makes it legal. So we've heard Trump say things something like that before. And I think he doesn't want to quote Nixon, so he'd rather compare himself to Napoleon. And Napoleon was the right-wing reaction against the revolution in France. So, what else is going on? Well, because of this initiative by Trump with Putin and excluding others, including Zelensky from Ukraine, the Allies are talking about sending troops for a Ukraine ceasefire. In other words, securing it for once and for all against the dirty deals that Trump and Putin might make if left to their own devices. Now, as I said earlier, if it was Biden, there might be a difference of opinion. But that's not what this is about. And it is a long and dramatic change among Republicans over the last decade that they would be siding up with Putin and Russia, given where Putin is. Now, we have another example of an outrage that's going to cause more of this neuroplasticity, if you will. Elon Musk is, when he's not cheering the election of Germany's just like Nazi party, prompting the chancellor to sound him out for doing that, proceeding with the visible position he has in America and not being pulled back and hemmed in from these statements. These statements should be the basis to fire his ass. Talking about the equivalent of the neo-Nazi party that's seeking to control Germany, and he's taking their part, while he has a pivotal role in America, which when it's convenient, we call him a consultant. When we want to get stuff done, he's something else. So the neuroplasticity, and I may be pushing this metaphor a little far, I agree, but the ability of our society, we the people, allies, judges, goo-goo groups, and even sometimes a word from the hill, maybe they'll find a soul yet, but they haven't done it so far. We are looking for the saving grace of enough people in our nation and worldwide who give a damn about government in the sense of, as a standard, does it take care of its own? And that was our Constitution. That was our promise. That's why people came here before we were born and stayed and made this nation a special place. Of course, compromised, but still better than the vision, the sick vision, the dystopic vision that Trump has. Now, I don't know about you, I did not watch the Saturday Night Live show. That is, I think it was a 3-hour show. I just had other things to do. But I did find, and you could do the same, I'm sure, if you go on YouTube, you can pick and choose things that you did not see in the show. And there were a number of them. But one of the things that struck me was Sandler's guitar song, both comic and memorable and touching. And I don't know about you, but if I feel that someone is hamming it up, exaggerating, then I have trouble suspending my disbelief. And I want to be, I want to feel the experience someone else does. And I thought that Sandler did that in his presentation. It was not the only one. You could see that there were moments that really mattered to the people, the history they had with the show, 50 years, and all the very many talented people who were involved. Another one that I enjoyed involved Paul Simon. Paul Simon did concerts in the park. I was at Columbia, and I remember a concert that he gave, Simon and Garfunkel, and there was like a warmish wind, dark at night, and the friendliest large gathering. There was not a political protest that I probably ever went to. Anyhow, he did a duo with Sabrina Carpenter, and knowing that he's had a physical impairment that's affected his ability to, I don't know if it's to sing or to hear the tone. I presume she was there, and she did a very good job of, well, being at his side and contributing, and I thought perhaps helping him. Now nobody said any of this. This is just my reading of it. And what they sung was Homeward Bound. So I thought that was, and you can find other things if you saw the show, that you can participate in and not have to think about the garbage that we have to throw out of the Oval Office as soon as we get around to it. I'd like to finish with something that I heard was developing just before I went out to do this walk. And it is that about 4:30 today, 4 top New York City officials resigned. They resigned because of the criminal prosecution of the mayor of the city of New York. If I understand correctly, all 4 are deputy mayors. And this is their form of participating in a criticism of a mayor who would sell his office to avoid the prosecution when the prosecution was deserving and the motion to dismiss it had nothing to do with the merits of the case. I think this feels like part of that change of our collective societal nature, brain, resisting what cannot justify itself to us. And so these 4 deputy mayors, and in New York, I certainly know it coming from there, these are hard, tough politicians, each who has their own ambition. And maybe they'll run for mayor, I don't know what they'll do. But the resignation is important. And we are hard put to find courage among us. And so I take this as another step in the direction toward giving the heave-ho to felon Trump and all his associated criminal associates and all the bad things that they're doing. We just have to keep pressing the case any way we can. And I just question about the New York mayor is, will the governor remove him from office? Now that would be sweet. And this case is important, not just for the merits of it, but for the visibility and the forces it brings together. A corruption in the law, a quid pro quo for an act for a politician who would do a favor like Trump once tried to get Zelensky to do, and he wouldn't do it. This is important stuff. And this is one of those magical, metaphorical moments that is transparent to what all that is wrong about Trump is rolled into that story among the others that define how craven, how criminal, how evil Trump is. So that's what I got. And so it's getting cooler, I think, as the afternoon goes on. So I say goodbye to you from my cathedral of trees, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.